So, every now and then, the CIA releases a bunch of secret documents, millions of pages that become public knowledge, declassified and released anywhere from 25 years from the operation date all the way up to 75 years later. Now, these files spill the tea on all sorts of top secret projects, experiments, and past studies. Some so strange, they leave you scratching your head. And some that'll definitely leave you like, damn, I knew that was true. And let's be honest, a few of them are probably pretty embarrassing for the CIA. Maybe even a little damaging to their image. I mean, 80 plus years of telling us that people were delusional or crazy for claiming they've seen UFOs or aliens, just for them to come out and admit that they've been in contact with both UFOs and aliens this whole damn time?
Decades of public denial, the U.S. government is now acknowledging the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, what we often call UFOs. The U.S. Senate has ordered now the Director of National Intelligence.
We're about to see some of the weirdest government operations ever greenlit about psychics, meditation, and the truth about energy. And the programs ran to study crash, unidentified flying vehicles, all sanctioned by the United States government. So, my name's Michael. Thanks for joining me today, guys. And let's get started.
Since 2007, the U.S. government has been studying unidentified aerial phenomenon behind the scenes, collecting videos like these of possible UFO sightings. The Pentagon admits what's depicted in the videos captured by U.S. military is something they can't explain.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
The intelligence community shut it down. This is ridiculous, folks. They do exist or they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of the information to prove that they do exist. And we're going to get to the bottom of it, dadgummit, whatever the truth may be.
They have a lot to release, and I think that it's going to be more like a drip feed out to the public than they're going to release everything at once.
Believe it or not, the CIA wasn't always so skeptical about things like mind reading and seeing things from afar. At least, that's not how they make it seem. Not openly. For years, they actually thought people with these so-called abilities could be valuable assets, secret weapons the government could use. This wasn't just some crazy hunch either. The CIA got wind of whispers, rumors, that the Soviet Union was way ahead of the game, training their own team of psychic spies. And apparently, the Soviets were throwing some serious cash at this project. I'm talking millions of rubles, ramping up year after year. This sent shivers down the CIA's spine, made them nervous. All that money and manpower, for what? It couldn't be for nothing. The Soviets must be getting results. They had to have been. Fearing they were falling behind, the CIA decided they needed to get into the psychic spy business their damn selves. A clear case of better safe than sorry. So they launched their own top secret program to explore the world of extrasensory perception and remote viewing. So, what is remote viewing, really? Well, that's the idea that someone with special abilities can pick up information with their minds, stuff a normal person couldn't perceive because it's hidden, super far away, or maybe even happened in the past. We're talking about seeing things without using your eyes, hearing whispers without using your ears, all without any clues, gadgets, or even logical deduction. It might sound crazy, but that's exactly what the CIA wanted to find out. And they spent that bread on it too.
The CIA secretly commissioned a study of communist brainwashing methods at the Cornell University Medical Center. A leader of that study was Dr. Lawrence Hinkle. He explains first the Russian method of controlling and breaking a person.
Absolutely isolated from everyone else, with one man whose job it is to get you to write the extent to which you are a criminal. In this setting, you can get people to do most anything, do you see? Because you don't have to lay a hand on them. And by the time you get through and you go up before the judge, the fellow says, "Were you a spy?" He says, "Yes, I was a spy."
Then they also did experimentations to using different chemicals to see if you can induce a person to commit a crime or induce him to do that or to do this. Of course, the CIA claimed that it didn't carry it through. The documentation we got was actually that they did that. Then we came across the overall project called MKULTRA. Its earlier code name was Artichoke, and that included 149 sub-projects. 149. Yeah. And those sub-projects range from what I just described to open-air testing in the United States, the experimentation on prisoners, experimentation on...
According to declassified documents, they even believed everyone has a little bit of this psychic ability in them. Can you believe that? The type of ability that has always been in mythology and fairy tales, movies and comics. But apparently this psychic ability is kind of like a sixth sense, a built-in survival tool that most people just don't tap into. But with the right training, they thought these hidden talents could be woken up and put to good use. So, in 1972, the CIA decided to test the waters. They teamed up with the Stanford Research Institute in California and launched a program called SCANIT to see if they could harness this potential mind power for real. SCANIT didn't involve a ton of fancy equipment or a huge team. They started small with just a couple of people who seemed to have some serious psychic abilities. One of them was even a famous artist named Ingo Swann, and yes, he was also a Scientologist, which turned out to be pretty common amongst these trainees. The CIA was looking for people who could consistently hit the bullseye on their psychic tests with an accuracy rate of at least 65%. And guess what? According to the people involved in the program, they were blowing that benchmark out of the water. Things were looking good. The CIA even got curious about a famous TV personality named Uri Geller, the guy who claimed to bend spoons with his mind. They brought him in for some testing in 1973, and to make sure it was a fair shot, they stuck him in a room with no windows, couldn't hear anything outside, and there wasn't even any electricity. They then picked a word out of a giant dictionary, drew a picture to represent it, and stuck it on the wall outside of Geller's super sealed room. Now, could Geller use his mind to guess this mystery word? I mean, the CIA set things up so that Geller couldn't peek or hear anything. They picked the word fuse and drew a picture of a firecracker. Geller was close. He wasn't quite on the money. He managed to sketch a drum, something cylindrical that made noise. So it was very close. But the next time, the word was bunch, and the experimenters drew 24 grapes. Yo, guess how many grapes Geller drew? Yo, you guessed it, 24 exactly. That, along with many other bullseyes, seemed to convince the CIA that Geller, along with the others, has something real going on, even though things weren't always so successful. But even with these mixed results, the CIA was still hooked on the idea of psychic spies. And this led to some pretty wild programs like the Army's Gondola Wish project in 1977, with the goal being to train soldiers to use their minds to gather classified intel, sniff out enemy weaknesses, and figure out how to defend against them. When the program got the green light the following year, they ditched the silly name and went with something a little more serious, Project Grill Flame. They set up shop at Fort Meade in Maryland to see if they could really turn these psychic abilities into a weapon for national security. But all of this secret spy stuff eventually came tumbling down. In 1984, a journalist named Jack Anderson got wind of the whole psychic soldier operation and spilled the beans in an article. And that same year, a big scientific group, the National Academy of Sciences, took a look at the CIA's psychic research and, well, let's just say they weren't impressed. No surprise then that the Army's funding for these projects dried up faster than anyone could have predicted. However, that didn't mean the party was over for the psychic spies. The programs just got a makeover and a new home. And by 1991, the latest project was codenamed Stargate. Stargate and its crew set the government back a cool $20 million and included around 40 people, with 23 of them being the star attraction, remote viewers.
One of the most paranormal things about our program is that we had continuous support from a particular group of agencies, NASA, the Army, the Air Force, for 20 years to do this group of experiments. And that in itself is paranormal.
Controversial topics. Today, down at the South Point, some of the people who worked as psychic spies for the U.S. government shared their knowledge about a technique known as remote viewing, which was developed for the CIA. The event is a joint conference of two science organizations, but is open to the public. Tomorrow, two men who have spent years involved with Pentagon programs will tell what they know about secret studies into UFOs. Psychist Dr. Hal.
3 of these psychics even stayed and hung out at Fort Meade for years, on call whenever a government agency needed a peek into the future or a glimpse behind enemy lines. Like, that was their jobs. The local psychic for the military. According to Stargate, they had some real doozies over the years. Successes so wild that they supposedly left everyone involved needing a stiff drink to calm down. We're talking 8-10 shots of gin and juice kind of crazy. So, did these psychic spies deliver the goods? In one case, a remote viewer was able to pinpoint the crash site of a Soviet bomber in Africa, and only being off by a few miles, which is pretty impressive considering the size of the continent. It's the biggest one in the world. Another remote viewer predicted a Soviet submarine with a specific number of missile launch tubes that would be deployed within 100 days. And 2 submarines matching that description were spotted about 120 days later. They didn't know if it was just a spooky coincidence or something more, but the hits kept coming. The Stargate psychics even claimed to help locate hidden tunnels and secret structures in Iraq. There were even whispers that they hinted at Saddam Hussein's whereabouts, although that information has never been confirmed. But of course it's not. Why would the government confirm it? So, overall, Project Stargate was a project to expand the minds and consciousness of an individual, to unlock the human being's natural, latent abilities. Things like frequencies, energy fields, and even chakra points are all mentioned here. Like, what in the actual hell is going on in this world? What's true and what's not? The Gateway Process document outlines a comprehensive approach to altering consciousness through a combination of meditation, auditory stimuli, and biofeedback techniques. This process is designed to achieve heightened states of awareness so you can unlock latent psychic abilities. What does this mean? That meditation is the key to unlocking our true abilities? You guys have all heard this from other places, right? Of course you have. Like Hinduism with yoga, Hermeticism, and from ancient esoteric texts. The document discusses the concept of energy vortexes, or chakra points, which are believed to be the centers of energy within the human body. These points, traditionally recognized in Eastern spiritual practices, are considered critical for the flow of energy and overall well-being. Techniques described include focusing on these chakra points during meditation to enhance the flow of energy through the body, supposedly leading to heightened states of consciousness and physical abilities. And check this out. These scientists stated that unlocking these chakra points too early or prematurely can lead to severe problems in the human body, especially in people who had no desire to unlock anything at all in the first place. So they're saying that activating certain energy centers without the proper training or preparation can lead to psychological and physiological issues, just like what the Eastern esoteric traditions teach. This is insane. So, according to these documents, the symptoms shown in an individual who has prematurely unlocked their chakra points would be indistinguishable from the symptoms shown in an individual who was suffering from schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. What? This statement right here blew my mind when I first read it. There's always been hints in movies, TV shows, media, and even just rumors throughout our lives about how people with these type of mental disorders are possibly seeing things that are actually there, speaking to people that are actually there, hearing conversations between beings that are actually there, but we just can't hear them.
I had 4 breakdowns, one after the other.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was hospitalized between the ages of 17 and 20. I was hospitalized between the ages of 17 and 20. I hear voices, you know?
There's nothing wrong with hearing voices.
Yeah?
What about Joan? She hear voices.
Joan?
Hey, Saint Joan. They don't call us schizophrenic, they call us Saint.
I have a message for your King Henry. It is a message from God. Go home. Go now, in peace.
And what about Moses?
What about him?
He hear voices. Hey, he hear a voice. Hey, he don't hear that voice. There'd be no Judeo-Christian tradition. Honest to God, Matthew. Hey, Moses come down that mountain. Doctors asked him what he hear. He said, "Thou shalt not kill. Hey, thou shalt not commit adultery."
Yo, we're throwing antidepressants and psych meds at these type of people to get them better acquainted with our world. But what if that's the wrong thing to do? What if seeing a real monk or getting quality meditation, what if that's the key to alleviating the mind of the mentally ill? What if these chakra points, like the ancient scriptures and these documents talk about, are really there? And if awoken, can allow us to perceive and interact with reality different than how we are now? Would we have psychic abilities at that point? Yo, this sounds like something straight out of a comic book, man. Like, through understanding and meditation, we could become like Jedis and access the Force or some shit. The government has a lot to explain, I swear. They're hiding a lot more than we can probably even imagine when it comes to things like these. And these declassified documents, I feel, yo, they're not even the tip of the iceberg. To run experiments like these just to find out that there's truth in it, maybe I can understand it. But to have them classified, and for so long, and we still haven't even gotten everything back, and whatever we do get back is filled with redacted lines and sentences of information. Like, come on.
And all that would do would require the Federal Aviation Administration to report UAP sightings by commercial pilots to Congress. The intelligence, I was told the intelligence community shut it down. This is ridiculous, folks. They do exist or they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of the information to prove that they do exist. And we're going to get to the bottom of it, dadgummit, whatever the truth may be.
I mean, the CIA could have avoided public outrage by exercising better judgment, by avoiding such outlandish operations from the start. But all they did was lie and call anyone who read into the exact same things they were studying at the time, they called them crazy or off the handle, when I believe all they had to do was tell us what was going on, at least with certain things, like by telling the truth on certain findings or operations that they're up to, when it has nothing to do with releasing sensitive military information like new weapons or some shit. A perfect example of that would be them lying to us for the past 80 plus years about the existence of UFOs and aliens. Just imagine that real quick, guys. People have been ridiculed, lost their jobs, homes, families, all because they swore on national radio or on the news that they saw a UFO crash in the mountains, or that they really were actually abducted by aliens. And those people were ridiculed in their local towns, the papers, lost friends and neighbors, and maybe even some family members. All for what? Just for the government to come out years later just to admit that they're relying on having proof of aliens? Having proof of crashed UFOs? The amount of lives that were ruined because of this lie. More recently, the Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena UAP Task Force has been making headlines. In 2020, the Department of Defense released videos captured by Navy pilots showing unexplained aerial phenomena performing maneuvers that defy our current understanding of physics. These declassified reports have reignited the public's interest in UFOs and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. And in 2021, the CIA declassified a bunch of damn documents related to UFO sightings and investigations. These documents, covering several decades, included reports, memos, and correspondence detailing various sightings and the government's response. One notable case is the 1976 Tehran UFO incident, where Iranian fighter jets encountered a mysterious object that disabled their entire instrumentation. Or another example, like the infamous Roswell incident, in 1947, something crashed down near Roswell, New Mexico. Initial reports described it as a flying disc, but the military quickly forced them to retract that statement, claiming it was just a weather balloon. We all know that's a lie. But decades later, declassified documents revealed that the object was part of a top secret project called Mogul, designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests, which is clearly not true. It's some crap, because they would have just said that from back then, or even used a similar lie or excuse back then. So, despite this bullshit explanation, many people still believe that an alien spacecraft crashed that night. And Project Blue Book and other similar like programs, which was thrown in people's faces as conspiracy whenever insiders spoke about these things, was also revealed to be official. It was a systematic study of UFOs conducted by the United States Air Force from 1952 to 1969. It was the third of a series of systematic studies following projects Sign 1947 and Grudge 1949. Proof that they've been aware and tracking on these UFOs and crashed crafts since at least the 1940s. It's 2024 now. With the primary goals of Project Blue Book being to determine if UFOs are a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO related data. Headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio and overseen by a team of military personnel and civilian consultants, including astronomers and scientists, in which they investigated over 12,000 reported UFO sightings and events. Of these, 701 cases remain unidentified despite rigorous analysis. And even up to this day, reports are coming in from all over, with even our military personnel coming forward and reporting UFO/UAP phenomena. Actual military reports with sonar, radar, night vision, X-ray or infrared. Proof of these sightings are coming in from the top to the bottom and are being presented in more than one form of evidence.
He joins us tonight. Thanks so much, Professor, for coming on. So with this announcement by the United States Navy, what has changed? What is different now that they've said this?
We are now witnessing a tipping point. You see, the burden of proof used to be on the believers to prove that UFOs are real. Now the burden of proof has shifted to the government and the military to prove that they're not real. But the evidence is overwhelming. We have all this information from U.S. Navy pilots. We now have metrics. We can actually measure how fast they travel, how high they are, what kinds of centrifugal forces that they can experience. And science, remember, is based on things that are testable, reproducible, and falsifiable. Now we have testable information. A game changer.
There's honestly a lot to unpack, guys, when it comes to these declassified government docs. Man, they're lying to us. With all these things happening in the world, I feel it's about time for us to find out what's going on. So thanks for watching this, guys. I plan on doing a part 2 to this soon, once I get more crazy information from these documents. I'll also be linking these docs in the description down below for you all to read. Please leave a comment. I really want to hear your thoughts, especially on the meditation and the chakra points. So, my name's Michael. I'm signing off, everyone. And as always, guys, be safe.
Stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to